Hey, Rainbow here, and welcome to my channel. I'm really appreciative that you're here, and I thank you. So, as they would say in Italian, sono grato per tutti voi, right? Grateful for everyone. Okay, so over 16,000 miles on this motorcycle in 11 months, technically in 9 months. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I lost 2 months because I was hit into the front and had the bike out of commission for 2 months. There's lots of videos about that. $10,800 worth of damage to this front end, and I lost those 2 months. And then I've kind of slowed down a little bit since then. But working a full-time job, using this a lot of the time as a commuter. I can ride this thing full-time year-round because I live in Florida right now. And the bike has been fantastic. So what have I learned after 16,000 miles on this bike? Well, I've learned that I've fallen in love with this bike. I really have. That this bike does a lot. It does a lot more than I even really thought it would, because you just have the idea in your head, but then until you actually use it and ride it, it's the feeling. So when we try to think about purchasing a bike and what's going to fit our lifestyle, you have to look at all aspects of what you want to do with that one bike. Are you going to have several bikes? Are you going to have a track bike, a dirt bike, a cruiser bike? I mean, you know, if all of us had our way, we can probably all have 5 or 6 motorcycles. And some of you probably have a lot more than that. But for me right now, I have one. I was supposed to have 2, but I have one. My other one I got totaled because I got hit head on my Indian, and I love that bike. But this thing kind of took the place of the Indian, to be quite honest with you. This is a fantastic bike. What I'm trying to say is, this bike is for you if you want to use it for how it's named. Multistrada, okay? Many roads, okay? What I like about this bike is that if I want to go out on a dirt road, I want to go down a path, I want to take it out in the woods, I can do that with this bike. Now, if you want to get really aggressive on some very technical trails, you're going to have to change the tires, and you better get used to doing it with a really heavy bike. I don't take this on heavy trails. I'll take it out the woods, I'll take it on logging roads, I'll take it on dirt roads, but that's the extent of it. It's nice that I can do that on this bike. I don't want to drop a 500-pound bike, which sometimes, and honestly most of the time, it's going to happen when you're on technical trails with a 500-pound bike. Plus, it's a beautiful bike. I don't really want to wreck it. So this bike comes in super handy with that 19-inch front wheel and a 17-inch rear. Now, the 19-inch front comes in handy for those trails. It comes in handy for the off-road. It is very handy. And it doesn't really affect to a great degree. In fact, most people won't feel it. It doesn't really affect the performance and the flickability of this bike. This bike is extremely nimble, and the longer you ride it, the more comfortable you get with it. Like all bikes, it just grows on you, and you'll find out exactly how nimble this bike is. You can really move this thing around. It is a very comfortable bike, all right? The other nice part about having a 19-inch front wheel, sometimes I get stuck in traffic and I'm like, screw this, I'm gonna cut off over a curb into a parking lot and just leave, find another way. Not supposed to do it, but I do it. It comes in handy. Maybe you're somewhere where you kind of get stuck and you don't want to have to go up over a curb. You want to park somewhere where you want to go up the curb and park next to a building. You can do that. It's nice to have that clearance with this bike. The second thing is that this is a very comfortable bike. The seat is very comfortable. The riding position is very comfortable. If you're coming from a cruiser or a sport bike, you're gonna be like, oh, wow, this is so much more comfortable, because it is very comfortable. It's an extremely comfortable riding position that you're in, so you don't have the fatigue, so you can take it on longer trips, which is why I got this bike. That's one of the main reasons, is because I have some intentions of taking some long trips. Now, I've done 1,000-mile weekends, and I've gone far away up into Georgia and up into northern Florida with this bike. And my intention is that for this April, I'm riding this bike from literally near Miami all the way to Austin, Texas, to COTA, to the Circuit of Americas. And I'm going to go to the MotoGP race, and I'm taking this bike with me. And I will have this bike. I will not have a Pikes Peak. That's another video. So it's a very comfortable position. And because it has the panniers that you can get with it, and you can put, I like soft bags on the back, I can carry more than enough weight and more than enough storage for me to take any type of cross-country trip, even if I go all the way to California, all right? So it's comfortable, it's great for long distance. Number 3, this is fun. It's just a fun bike. This bike, it's intoxicating. Why do you think I have 16,000 plus miles on it in only 9 months of riding? That's because it's fun. The bike is just exciting. It has tons of power. I mean, it's rated with 170 horsepower. It's probably around 150, 155 at the rear wheel. But this bike has tons of horsepower and a good amount of torque, okay? It's a very fast bike. This bike has been up well over 155 miles an hour without the panniers on. With the panniers, I took it up to 140 with the panniers one time, and I said never again. I just didn't feel comfortable riding that fast with panniers on. But keeping it on the highway, cruising with panniers at 95, 100 miles an hour, it's just smooth. So it's comfortable, it's fun, it's smooth, and it's versatile. And that's why I really love this bike. That's one of the most important things about this bike to me, is its versatility. Hence the name, Multistrada. Essentially, this bike is really the trifecta. It's comfortable, good for touring, good for taking off-road, and it's fun. It's fast. It's a very, very fast bike. And it has those 3 things. It's the 3 qualities that I think you want in every single bike. I'm going to go back to something. Again, if you want to go off-road and you wanted to go on some trails to a dirt track, this is not the bike for that, okay? This bike is for going down those trails, down those roads that lead to somewhere else, the off-road capability where you're not going up and over rocks and risking falling over. Yes, there are a lot of riders out there who are fantastic with these big heavy bikes and can twirl them around like they're lightweight, but that's not everyone. Those are the experts. Those are the people who spend a lot of time on these bikes. That's not me, all right? Give me a dirt bike, I'll show you how to ride it. I'm not taking 500 pounds out on these technical trails. So essentially, to sound repetitive, this bike has everything. And then let's go into one more aspect of this bike, technology. I am 56. I started riding motorcycles. I got my first motorcycle, a Benelli 60cc, Benelli. That means that's 48 years ago I started riding motorcycles. I have nothing to prove to anyone. The only thing I have to do is to prove to myself that I want to keep improving how I ride. I want to take classes. I want to practice. And I still go to parking lots and practice. I still do that. 48 years later, I'm going to parking lots and practicing. Why? Because it makes you feel more comfortable. And this bike allows you to feel comfortable because it has all of those rider aids that are there for your safety, all right? The blind spot detection, fantastic. It's rare now that I ever get like, whoa, where did that car come from? And something zooms by you. You're not constantly looking in your mirrors because then you're never looking forward. You're always paying attention, your head's on a swivel. But when you have these blind spot monitoring indicators, it is extremely helpful. Now, on a busy highway, I'm not going to be using the dynamic cruise control. Don't need it, all right? Very unnecessary, it drives you crazy. But if you're on those long, windy roads or you're in some not stop and go, some like regular highway where you're just following behind someone and there's no passing zones. Set it and forget it. The bike will slow down, the bike will speed up. It won't shift for you, but it'll brake, it'll slow down, it'll engine brake, it'll adjust the speed, it'll adjust the throttle for you. So if the person in front of you is doing 65 miles an hour and then all of a sudden they slow down because the person in front of them is going 59, you're going to slow down to 59. You're going to go as slow as the person in front of you. And when they speed back up, it goes right up to the speed that you had it set at. It really helps you with your wrists and your hands. No more are you falling asleep, and getting all that vibration, which is another thing. The bike is very smooth, so you just don't have that vibration. Now, if you want to start hitting 100 plus miles an hour on a regular, you're going to have some vibration in any bike, but it's extremely smooth when it comes time for that. Another part of these rider aids is the traction control, the wheelie control. It gives you some more confidence in your riding because you know that there are rider aids there to back you up if you make a bad decision, if you maybe don't have the skill, okay? I'm not saying to use those in place of skill. It's why I continue to go to parking lots and still practice, and I put so much miles on here because I want to constantly improve my skills and my riding abilities, okay? But the rider aids on this are fantastic. You can set them as low as you want. You can turn them off if you want. So if you don't like rider aids, turn them all off. Turn them off completely. If you want to do a long wheelies, you have to turn them off. You can't sustain a wheelie on this bike for very long unless you turn the rider aids off. But to have the ABS, the cornering ABS, to have the traction control, all of that comes into play and it's really helpful. The ability to adjust the suspension to your liking, not just with the settings that it comes with, but the fact that you could adjust the preload electronically in here. And there's something on that coming up in the future, just so you know. But you can adjust your preload, you can adjust how stiff you want the bike, how loose you want it, and everything is very customizable. And there's another thing about it. It's a very customizable motorcycle. This motorcycle has a lot going for it. This motorcycle will do everything that you need it to do. It's like a one-stop shop package for a motorcycle other than the specialties. Now, I don't want to take this to a track, but I will take it to a track, but I'm going to lay back because I don't want to lay down a $27,000 motorcycle on the track. Some people go to the track with a $40,000 motorcycle. It's not something that I'm willing to do, okay? We're all different. If I want to go to the track, I'll buy a track bike. If I want to go to the dirt track, I'll buy a dirt track bike, right? Matter of fact, I'm in the market right now for a very lightweight enduro, like a KLX 300 or something like that, or the Honda CR or whatever it is, the rally. The suspension is crap in it, but that's a whole other ballgame. Anyway, this motorcycle really clicks all of my buttons. And there were times when I had some problems with this. So it hasn't been a honeymoon for the last 11 months. And let's talk about that. I did a video recently on the side stand spring. That is a problem that they really should correct, hopefully with future models of this, or maybe have a retrofit for this current model. But it's a problem that needs to be addressed, and Ducati knows that it needs to be addressed. The issue that I had with the bike, and I've talked to a few people who have this, between 4,000 and 5,000 RPM at certain times, that needle just bouncing, and you're holding the throttle rock steady, and it's just bouncing up towards 100, sometimes more RPM, and you're just wondering, and it feels like it's surging, and you're like, why is this motorcycle doing this? It's happened from day one. It doesn't happen all the time. It happens occasionally. I'm still trying to figure out at what point it does happen, so I can kind of maybe help point people in the right direction, on that. but it doesn't really affect anything. It's just something that you notice, and then you change your RPM and it goes away. So it's really not a big issue, but it's something that maybe needs to be looked at with some fuel mapping or something like that. You know, I really don't know. Gas mileage. If you're buying this bike for solely touring and you like to ride for 3 hours straight without stopping, don't buy this bike. All right, it has a 5.8 gallon tank. On average, I put in around 4.8, 4.9 gallons on average each time. On long trips where I'm not driving aggressively, about every 170, 180 miles, I'll stop and refuel. I have yet to make it to 200 miles without refueling, but I've come close a few times. You can expect to have a V4 engine that's 170 horsepower, pulling along 500 pounds and get really good gas mileage. It's just not going to happen. Not with this type of bike. Now, what did Ducati do to help you with that? When you are idling and your clutch is out and you're sitting idling in neutral at a stop sign or stoplight, it cuts half the cylinders off. So now only half the cylinders. And then as you pull the clutch in, you'll hear both the other two cylinders kick back on again. So Ducati's addressing it in the ways that they know how. If you want the bike that has the however many liters, 7 gallon tank and gets 50 miles to the gallon, then that's the bike you need to buy. Honestly, about every 2.5 to 3 hours, I want to pull over anyway. I want to get off the bike. I want to get off, stretch my legs, go to the bathroom, get something to drink. That's what I want to do. So gas mileage, the side stand spring, and basically that little glip that we have. Really no other issues. I went through a lot of crap in the beginning because the radar wasn't turned on. It's not a defect. It's not a problem. It's all corrected now, and everyone that comes out, they're all coming with the radar, you know, right from the factory turned on. That's all straightened out now. That's really not an issue at all. When I had an issue with it not starting, it was a fuel issue. When I had it not starting and shutting off at intersections, again, it wasn't the fuel, but it was a combination of the fuel, and it was the fact that my side stand spring was so bent and loose that my side stand was coming down and shutting the bike off as I was coming into intersections, you know, and the bike was moving or hitting a little pothole or something like that. But overall, this has been a fantastic bike, and I'm in love with this bike. I really am. I really missed it. I was really depressed for 2 months when I had to wait for this thing to get fixed. Yeah, I test drove a lot of other motorcycles, and that's one of the things that I learned is test riding all of those other motorcycles made me miss this one even more. This really is a fantastic bike. So if you're a BMW GS guy or you're a KTM, you know, Super Duke and you like their adventure, great, because they're very similar bikes. These are great bikes for that. But this bike is fun. It's sexy looking and it's fun. It's just a fantastic bike. And I can't say enough good things about it. Even with all the just like any relationship, we all have ups and downs. I've had some ups and downs with this, but ultimately I've been extremely happy with this bike. Anyway, please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I'd appreciate it. This is Rainbow, and I am out of here. Goodbye.